gentlemen. This is Vince Miller. Thank you so much for joining me for another great devotional in the book of Daniel. Today we're in chapter 2. I'm going to read verses 36 through 38. Before I do, here's where we're picking up in the story. Daniel has just told King Nebuchadnezzar about his dream, and now he's about to interpret it, but there's kind of this dramatic pause here, this interlude, so that's where we're picking up in the story. Daniel says, "This was the dream. Now we will tell the king its interpretation. You, O king, the king of kings, to whom the God of heaven has given the kingdom, the power, and the might, and the glory, and into whose hand he has given, wherever they dwell, the children of man, the beasts of the field, and the birds of the heavens, making you rule over them all. You are the head of gold." So now, at this point, Daniel has told Nebuchadnezzar about his dream by supernatural revelation, remember? And keep in mind, right now, in this moment, the king is probably a little shocked, especially given the detail with which Daniel described a dream that he privately had that no one knew anything about but God and Nebuchadnezzar and, of course, Daniel. But right into this moment of dramatic pause, Daniel inserts a reminder, and it's this: that you, O king, might be the current reigning emperor of the world, but the God who gave you this dream, and the God who gave me the ability to tell you this dream, is the God who has done this. He is the God who created the world and distributes power, determines rulers, conveys dreams, and interprets those dreams. And this right here is a critical declaration by Daniel. Fellas, this is the kind of man that God desires to use. The one who is unafraid of standing before any and all opposition. And fellas, we got opposition out there, right? Nebuchadnezzar in this moment is a pagan and enemy king, one that had overpowered God's nation and taken his people into exile. Yet we see that Daniel in this moment isn't vindictive or angry or on the attack when he gets his first chance to appear before the king. He doesn't curse him or insult him for what he has done, because Daniel knows something. He knows this, that Nebuchadnezzar didn't do it. God did it. You know, I think sometimes we men misunderstand what it means for us to stand against opposition. Because fellas, we are called to stand against all spiritual opposition. Yet at the same time, as we do this, we must be careful to not stand against God. And Daniel models right here how to do this. Nebuchadnezzar is his spiritual opposition. But Daniel knows something. He knows that God brought the nation of Israel into exile because of their unfaithfulness. So Daniel is content to trust God in this circumstance. Does this mean that Daniel should compromise his spiritual beliefs because his circumstances have changed? Well, no. But Daniel has to find new ways to stand against his opposition than he did before. As God's man, he has to be careful not to take matters into his own hands as he stands up for his beliefs. He has to be careful that in the process of standing against his opposition, that he doesn't end up standing against God. And Daniel knows that God has given him a supernatural revelation with an extraordinary power. But Daniel now has to steward this in a way that brings attention to God, not himself or his sense of justice, fellas. And notably, he speaks into this moment, reminding Nebuchadnezzar that he's great, but there's a greater king. And in some strange way, I think Daniel might be making this statement here to remind the king and himself that God is still in charge, so that he doesn't act against God. So, gentlemen, as you go about your day today, take some time to remind yourself that God is still in charge. It may not seem like it out there in our world, but he's actually got this. And then when God calls you to stand against spiritual opposition, you got to go for it. You got to speak up. But as you do it, be careful to not stand against God, because, fellas, no man stands against the greatness of our God. I love you guys. Stand up, speak up today, but do it in a way that brings honor and glory to Him. And I'll see you right back here again tomorrow.